California is losing people faster than a melting ice cube in the Mojave. In just a few years, hundreds of thousands packed up their lives, loaded U-Hauls like they were escaping a zombie apocalypse, and quietly slipped across state lines. This isn't just a trend, it's a full-blown mass migration. Entire neighborhoods are thinning out, businesses are shutting their doors, and for the first time in modern history, the Golden State is watching its shine fade. But here's the twist. Not all of California is bleeding equally. Some counties are practically begging people to stay, while others feel like they're pushing residents out the door with sky-high costs, rising crime, and a quality of life that's, let's just say, not Instagram-friendly anymore. And trust me, you're not ready for number one. So before you plan your next California dream, hit that like button, subscribe, and let's count down the 14 counties people are leaving behind. Number 14. Shasta County. Way up in Northern California, where the air smells like pine trees and freedom, Shasta County should be a hidden gem. On paper, it's the kind of place people fantasize about escaping to: wide open spaces, mountain views, and homes that don't require selling a kidney. Median home prices hover around the low $400,000 range. Rent is noticeably cheaper than the California average, and at first glance, it feels like you've outsmarted the system. But then reality creeps in like a slow-moving fog. The job market here isn't just limited, it's on a diet. Opportunities are scarce, wages are lower than the national average, and if you're not working in healthcare, government, or something tied to the land, good luck. And speaking of healthcare, access itself is becoming a growing concern. People aren't just leaving for better jobs, they're leaving because they want basic stability. Crime isn't off the charts, but it's unpredictable enough to keep people on edge, sitting slightly above national averages in certain categories. Add in rising political tensions that have turned community life into something resembling a never-ending comment section, and suddenly that peaceful mountain vibe feels a little less peaceful. Locals online often say things like, "It's beautiful, but there's nothing here unless you're retired or already set." Translation: if you're young, ambitious, or just want options, Shasta can feel like a waiting room with no receptionist. And that's the real problem. Shasta County isn't collapsing, it's stagnating. It's the kind of place where time slows down, whether you want it to or not. Picture this. You're standing on a quiet porch at sunset, Mount Shasta glowing in the distance, the sky painted in oranges and purples. It's stunning. It's peaceful. And then it hits you. There's nowhere to go tomorrow, nothing new coming, and the silence starts to feel a little too loud. And if you think Shasta County is quietly fading, wait until you see what's happening in Humboldt County. Number 13. Humboldt County. Humboldt County looks like a postcard someone forgot to ruin. Towering redwoods, misty coastlines, and that slow, dreamy rhythm of life that makes you feel like you've stepped out of reality and into a nature documentary. On paper, it's paradise. Median home prices sit around the mid-$400,000, rent is lower than California's big cities, and you'd think people would be fighting to stay. They're not, because living in Humboldt isn't just about scenery, it's about survival with a side of isolation. Jobs here are limited, and not in a choose-your-passion way, more like choose what exists. Healthcare, education, and cannabis still dominate the economy. But stable, high-paying careers, those are about as rare as a sunny day in Eureka. And then there's the cost of everything else. Groceries, gas, basic services, they all creep higher thanks to the county's remoteness. You're not just paying for what you buy, you're paying for how far it had to travel to reach you. Crime adds another layer to the story. While it's not chaos everywhere, certain areas report rates above national averages, particularly property crime. It's enough to chip away at that peaceful off-grid fantasy. Spend 5 minutes browsing local forums, and you'll see the same sentiment repeated. It's beautiful, but it's hard to build a life here. That's the vibe. Humboldt isn't pushing people out with force, it's slowly draining them of options. It's like living inside a screensaver, gorgeous, calming, and completely static. Picture this. You're walking through a redwood forest, fog curling around ancient trees, the smell of damp earth filling the air. It's magical, but your phone has no signal, your job prospects are limited, and that feeling of being away from it all starts to feel less like freedom and more like being left behind. And if you think Humboldt's isolation is the problem, wait until you see what happens when disaster rewrites an entire county in Butte. Number 12. Butte County. Butte County doesn't just carry problems, it carries scars. This is a place still haunted by the aftermath of the Camp Fire, one of the deadliest and most destructive wildfires in California history. Entire towns were erased, especially Paradise, where neighborhoods turned into ash almost overnight. And while rebuilding has happened, the emotional and financial aftershocks are still very real. On paper, Butte should be attracting people. Median home prices hover in the high $300,000 to low $400,000, making it one of the more affordable parts of California. Rent is lower than the state average, but here's the catch. Insurance costs have skyrocketed, if you can even get coverage at all. For many homeowners, it's like buying a house that comes with a permanent anxiety subscription. The job market hasn't fully recovered either. While Chico offers some stability thanks to education and healthcare, opportunities across the county remain uneven. In crime, it fluctuates, but certain areas report rates above national averages, especially property-related incidents, something that tends to rise in regions still rebuilding. Locals often say things like, "You can rebuild a house, but you can't rebuild peace of mind," and that pretty much sums it up. Living here means constantly being aware that nature could flip the table again at any moment. Butte County isn't just dealing with economics, it's dealing with memory. Every smoky summer, every dry wind, every red flag warning brings it all rushing back. Picture this. You're sitting outside a newly rebuilt home, everything fresh, everything clean. The sunset is beautiful, the air is still, until the faint smell of smoke drifts in from miles away. Your chest tightens, you check your phone, again, and suddenly you're not relaxed anymore. You're ready. And if you think living with that kind of uncertainty is tough, wait until you see what daily life feels like in Kern County. Number 11. Kern County. Kern County is where California's golden dream starts to feel a little rusted around the edges. At first glance, it looks like a bargain hunter's paradise. Median home prices sit around the mid-$300,000, sometimes even lower, and rent is far below what you'd find in Los Angeles or the Bay Area. For a brief moment, you feel like you've beaten the system, like you've found the cheat code to California living. Then, the air hits you. Literally. Kern County, especially Bakersfield, regularly ranks among the worst places in the U.S. for air quality. It's the kind of pollution that doesn't just sit in the background, it introduces itself. Combine that with summer temperatures that feel like the sun has a personal vendetta against you, and suddenly stepping outside becomes a strategic decision. The job market leans heavily on oil, agriculture, and logistics. Translation, if you're not in those industries, your options shrink fast. Wages tend to lag behind state averages, and economic mobility can feel like trying to run uphill in sand. Crime adds another layer to the story. Certain parts of the county report rates above the national average, particularly for violent and property crime. It's not everywhere, but it's enough to keep people cautious. Scroll through local discussions, and you'll see brutally honest takes like, "It's cheap for a reason." That's the unfiltered truth. Kern County isn't pretending to be glamorous, it's surviving. And for many residents, surviving isn't enough anymore. It's the kind of place that feels temporary, even when you've lived there for years. Picture this, you're driving down a long, flat road under a blazing sun, oil pumps nodding in the distance like tired workers. The horizon stretches forever, the heat shimmers off the asphalt, and the air feels heavy. You roll up your window, turn on the AC, and wonder, is this really where I want to stay? And if you think Kern County feels stuck, Wait until you see what happens when affordability collides with reality in San Joaquin County. Number 10. San Joaquin County. San Joaquin County was supposed to be the great escape hatch, the place where Bay Area dreamers could land without completely destroying their bank accounts. Cities like Stockton and Tracy became magnets for commuters chasing affordable homes, with median prices hovering around the low to mid $400,000 and rents that used to feel like a bargain compared to coastal insanity. But that bargain is starting to look like a bait and switch, because what you save in housing, you often pay back in lifestyle. Commuting from San Joaquin to places like Silicon Valley or San Francisco isn't just a drive, it's a daily endurance test. Hours lost in traffic, gas bills stacking up, and that creeping realization that your life is being measured in brake lights. And then there's crime. Stockton, in particular, has battled a reputation for violent crime rates above the national average for years. While improvements have been made, the perception, and in some areas the reality, still lingers enough to make families think twice. The job market inside the county hasn't kept pace either. Many residents still rely on commuting out for higher-paying work, which creates this fragile balance. If remote work disappears or gas prices spike, the whole system starts to crack. Local sentiment captures it perfectly. You move here to save money, but you lose time, and eventually that feels worse. It's not just about affordability anymore, it's about sustainability. San Joaquin feels like a pressure valve that's been overused. Too many people came looking for relief, and now it's starting to feel just as tight as the places they left behind. Picture this. It's 6:30 in the morning. You're already on the highway, coffee in hand, staring at a sea of red taillights stretching into the distance. The sun rises slowly, but you're not enjoying it. You're calculating how late you're going to be. Again. And if you think trading money for time is a bad deal, wait until you see what's happening in Stanislaus County. Number 9. Stanislaus County. Stanislaus County is the kind of place that keeps California fed, but quietly struggles to feed its own people a future. This is Central Valley farmland at its core. Modesto, Turlock, Ceres, endless rows of crops stretching toward a horizon that never seems to change. On paper, it looks like a practical choice. Median home prices land in the low $400,000, rent is still below the state average, and compared to coastal chaos, life feels slower, simpler, manageable. But manageable isn't the same as livable long-term. The local economy leans heavily on agriculture, logistics, and service jobs. That means wages tend to lag behind not just California standards, but often the national average too. So while housing is cheaper, the math doesn't always work out the way people expect. You're saving money on paper, but not necessarily getting ahead. Crime rates in certain parts of the county sit above national averages, particularly property crime. It's not overwhelming, but it's persistent, like background noise you can't fully tune out. Add in summer heat that regularly pushes into triple digits, and daily life starts to feel like a test of endurance. Scroll through local forums and you'll find a recurring theme. There's nothing wrong with it, but there's nothing really right either. That's the Stanislaus paradox. It's not bad enough to panic, but not good enough to stay. For younger residents especially, it feels like a launching pad, not a destination. People grow up here, then quietly leave in search of opportunity, culture, or just something that feels like forward motion. It's a place caught in between, too developed to be rural, too limited to be thriving. Picture this. You're standing in the middle of a quiet neighborhood at dusk. The air is still warm from the day's heat, the smell of farmland drifts in, and everything feels calm. But underneath that calm is a question that won't go away. Is this all there is? And if you think quiet stagnation is tough, wait until you see what happens when Bay Area pressure spills over into Solano County.
Number 8. Solano County. Solano County was never supposed to be the main stage. It was the backup plan, the place people ran to when the Bay Area got too expensive, too crowded, too everything. Cities like Vallejo, Fairfield, and Vacaville became pressure valves, soaking up overflow from San Francisco and Oakland. For a while, it worked. Median home prices hovered in the mid-$500,000, cheaper than the Bay, but still close enough to commute. Rent felt like a compromise you could live with. Key word, felt. Because what happens when you bring Bay Area demand into a smaller county? You don't escape the problem, you import it. Housing prices started climbing, traffic thickened, and suddenly Solano didn't feel like a hidden gem anymore. It felt like a sequel nobody asked for. Crime is part of the conversation too, especially in Vallejo, where rates in certain categories sit above national averages. It's not universal across the county, but it's enough to shape perception, and perception matters when people are deciding whether to stay or go. The job market hasn't fully kept up either. Many residents still rely on commuting into more expensive regions for better pay, which creates the same fragile lifestyle equation we saw before: long drives, rising costs, and shrinking patience. Local chatter often sounds like this: "We moved here to get away from the Bay, and somehow the Bay followed us." That's the Solano experience in one sentence. It's a place caught in the crossfire of California's housing crisis, too close to escape it, too far to fully benefit from it. Picture this: you're sitting in traffic on I-80, the Bay just within reach, but not close enough to matter. The sun is setting, casting a golden glow over rows of houses that all look newer than they feel. You glance at the clock, already calculating tomorrow's commute, and realize you didn't really get away. You just relocated the stress. And if you think Solano's identity crisis is complicated, wait until you see how the suburban dream starts cracking in Contra Costa County.
Number 7. Contra Costa County. Contra Costa County used to be the suburban dream California sold to itself. Tree-lined streets, good schools, quiet neighborhoods. Places like Walnut Creek, Concord, and Antioch were where you moved when you wanted space, safety, and just enough distance from the chaos of the Bay Area. And for a while, it delivered. Median home prices now sit well into the $700,000 to $800,000 range, with some areas pushing even higher. Rent? Let's just say it's no longer suburban pricing. It's why am I still paying this pricing? Because here's the problem. The dream got expensive without getting better. Commutes into San Francisco or Silicon Valley are still long and draining. Traffic doesn't care that you live in the suburbs. It follows you.
Number 6. Alameda County. Alameda County is where California's contradictions collide. On one side, you have Oakland, the city with culture, nightlife, and a pulse that can make anyone feel alive. On the other, sprawling suburbs like Fremont and Pleasanton promise safety, schools, and order. Sounds perfect, right? Except the price of perfection here is staggering. Median home prices are deep in the 900,000s, rent is sky high, and just about everything else follows suit. California affordability? Forget it. And then there's Oakland's reputation. Crime rates are above national averages in several categories, and while things have improved in certain neighborhoods, the headlines are enough to make anyone pause. Homelessness, drug issues, and property crimes pepper the news, creating a tension that's hard to ignore, even if you live a safe few miles away. Jobs are plentiful in tech and corporate sectors, but they're mostly concentrated in specific areas, leaving other communities struggling to keep pace. And for residents commuting within or outside the county, traffic is a daily endurance test, a slow-motion grind that eats hours of your life. Reddit and local forums often echo the sentiment: great amenities, terrible price. You can't have both. And that's the harsh reality. Alameda County delivers experiences, opportunities, and culture, but only if you can stomach the cost and risk. It's a place of extremes: beauty and chaos, opportunity and frustration, culture and caution. You're not just living here, you're navigating it. Picture this. You're walking down an Oakland street at sunset, murals glowing, cafes humming, and the bay sparkling in the distance. It's vibrant, alive, electric, and just a few miles away, a street you'd cross quickly if you weren't paying attention. The contrast hits you. Alameda County is living in two worlds at once, and neither is cheap. And if you think Alamede's balancing act is tough, wait until you see what it's like when Fresno's heat, crime, and limited opportunities collide in one Central Valley package. Number 5. Fresno County. Fresno County is the classic California paradox, cheap enough to tempt newcomers, hot enough to make you question every life choice. Median home prices sit in the low $400,000. Rent is below the state average, and at first glance, it seems like a bargain compared to the coast. But in reality, Fresno isn't just affordable, it's a survival test with a side of relentless sun. The heat is the first thing you notice. Summers routinely push triple digits, turning commutes and errands into endurance events. The air itself seems to weigh on you, and AC bills climb like they have a personal vendetta. Then there's the economy. Fresno leans heavily on agriculture and service jobs, meaning wages lag behind not only the California average, but often the national one too. So even when housing is cheap, keeping up feels like running on a treadmill that's slowly speeding up. Crime adds another layer. Certain areas report violent and property crime above national averages. It's not uniform, but it's enough to make people rethink where they leave their kids, where they walk at night, and whether that bargain was worth it. Local sentiment online often boils down to, it's fine if you're desperate, but don't expect opportunity. That's Fresno in a nutshell, a place where affordability comes with caveats and comfort is negotiable. It's a county that tests patience and resilience. For families, newcomers, or anyone expecting upward mobility, it can feel like a compromise too heavy to bear. Picture this, you're stepping out of your car at 2 p.m. The pavement radiates heat, a distant wind kicks up dust from endless fields, and the sun is brutal enough to make sunglasses mandatory indoors. You sip water, check the clock, and realize you've just survived another hour, and tomorrow you do it all over again. And if you think Fresno's endurance test is rough, wait until the capital city itself starts showing cracks in Sacramento County. Number 4. Sacramento County. Sacramento County, the state capital in a city that once promised a safe, affordable alternative for Bay Area escapees, is now showing its own cracks. Median home prices hover around $600,000, rents are climbing fast, and the influx of people fleeing San Francisco and Silicon Valley has pushed infrastructure, schools, and traffic to the brink. What was once a refuge now feels like a crowded waiting room. The city has become a paradox, growing wealth in some neighborhoods, growing desperation in others. Homelessness has surged, particularly in downtown areas, while formerly quiet suburbs struggle with rising crime rates, though still near or slightly above national averages. The crime isn't always headline-grabbing, but it's enough to change the vibe from safe and comfortable to keep your doors locked and your wits about you. Employment opportunities exist, state jobs, healthcare, tech, and services, but the rapid population growth has outpaced job creation in many sectors. Residents often find themselves commuting long distances or taking jobs that don't match the cost of living. Sacramento is no longer the affordable dream it once was. It's a mixed bag of promise and compromise. Local chatter sums it up perfectly. Sacramento's great if you're used to chaos, but don't expect to get ahead here. The city's charm is fading under the weight of its own success. Picture this. You're biking along the river, the sunset reflecting off the water, the golden glow beautiful enough to distract you. But as you pass tents lining the sidewalks and crowded freeways in the distance, the beauty starts to feel bittersweet. You can appreciate it, but living here, that's a different story. And if you think Sacramento's balance between charm and chaos is tricky, wait until the sprawling, sun-baked realities of Los Angeles County make it feel like a stroll in the park. Number 3. Los Angeles County. Los Angeles County, the dream factory turned endurance test. If you ever imagined California as endless sunshine, palm trees, and movie stars casually sipping lattes, this is the place you pictured. Median home prices soar well over $900,000. Rents are enough to make your jaw ache, and traffic isn't just a nuisance, it's a lifestyle. LA isn't a city, it's a challenge you live inside. The county has it all: beaches, mountains, culture, and jobs that can make fortunes. But it also has homelessness crises, rising crime in certain neighborhoods, relentless congestion, and skyrocketing living costs. Many residents are finding that even high salaries can't keep pace with the bills, and the fantasy of making it big often collides with reality somewhere between the 405 and the 101. Job markets exist, but the cost of commuting, both in time and money, is brutal. You can earn a decent wage, but hours spent in traffic can feel like a slow theft of life. And if you're not in tech, entertainment, or specialized industries, opportunities can be scarce in comparison to the competition. Reddit and local chatter put it bluntly: LA is amazing until you realize you're broke, exhausted, and waiting in line at every corner. That's the Los Angeles paradox: beautiful chaos that can leave even the toughest dreamers burned out. Picture this: you're standing on Mulholland Drive, city lights sparkling beneath you like a treasure chest. The air smells faintly of smog and fast food. You can see the ocean to one side, the mountains to the other, but your mind is racing with rent, traffic, and the endless noise. LA is breathtaking, brutal, and unrelenting all at once. And if you think LA's combination of glitz and grind is overwhelming, wait until you see what paradise with a price tag looks like in San Diego County.
Number 2, San Diego County. San Diego County, sun, surf, and a living nightmare for anyone not swimming in cash, with median home prices easily tipping past $900,000 and rents that could fund a small vacation in Europe. San Diego is where perfect weather comes at a near impossible cost. Even high earners are starting to look over their shoulders, wondering if the golden sunsets are worth the financial strain. The county itself is a dreamscape: beaches that make postcards jealous, mountains that rise like guardians, and a lifestyle that screams California cool. But beneath that Instagram-perfect surface lies a tough reality. Traffic is relentless, commutes are longer than you'd like, and the cost of groceries, utilities, and basic living is enough to make anyone reconsider moving here. Crime isn't LA-level chaotic, but it's rising in specific neighborhoods, particularly property-related incidents. Combine that with an increasingly visible homelessness crisis, and the sparkle starts to dull. San Diego is paradise, yes, but one that comes with invisible fees. Jobs? Plenty if you're in biotech, defense, or tech, but the competition is fierce, and for many, the dream job doesn't fully cover the dream lifestyle. Younger residents and families often find themselves stuck between soaring costs and limited opportunity for advancement. Local sentiment is clear: we live where others vacation and pay like it. The tone is equal parts pride and exhaustion, a constant negotiation between enjoyment and survival. Picture this: you're standing on a pier at sunset, waves crashing beneath your feet, the air smelling faintly of salt and sunscreen. The sky turns pink and orange, everything feels alive. And then you check your phone and see your bank account, rent due next week, and the grocery bill. The beauty almost mocks you. Paradise doesn't come cheap, and sometimes it's too much to bear. And if you think San Diego's paradise tax is brutal, brace yourself, because number 1 takes the crown for California's exodus in ways that will shock you.
Number 1, San Francisco County. San Francisco County, the crown jewel of California's exodus, once the tech utopia, the cultural mecca, and the symbol of the California dream, it's now ground zero for people packing U-Hauls and heading for cheaper pastures. Median home prices? Astronomical, well over $1.3 million. Rent? Enough to make your wallet weep silently. Even six-figure earners are reconsidering whether living here is worth it. The city's beauty is undeniable. Iconic hills, the Golden Gate, bustling neighborhoods, and a cultural richness that most places can only imitate. But behind the Instagram snapshots lies a harsher reality. Homelessness is visible on nearly every corner. Crime has spiked in certain districts, and the cost of living makes daily survival feel like a high-stakes game. Even the once booming tech sector has begun to show cracks, with layoffs and office vacancies reminding residents that not even innovation guarantees safety. Commuting might be simple if you can afford it, but parking, public transit, and traffic woes make getting anywhere a small ordeal. Add in skyrocketing property taxes and a cost of living that outpaces most of the country, and it's no wonder people are fleeing in droves. Reddit threads and local forums echo one sentiment: San Francisco is magical if you can afford magic. For many, the math just doesn't add up anymore. Picture this. You're standing at the top of Telegraph Hill, fog rolling in, the Golden Gate peeking through like a jewel in a gray blanket. It's stunning, breathtaking even. But below, the streets tell a different story. Homeless camps, shuttered shops, and signs of daily struggle remind you that the city's dream comes with a monumental price. People aren't leaving because they want to, they're leaving because they have to. San Francisco isn't just a city losing people, it's a cautionary tale. The higher the cost, the bigger the exodus. And for Californians, the golden dream sometimes comes with a lead weight. And if you think San Francisco is the end of the story, wait until you see where the next wave of movers is heading.
And there you have it. 14 California counties where people aren't just moving, they're running. From the quiet, pine-scented roads of Shasta to the foggy, wallet-draining streets of San Francisco, the Golden State is showing cracks beneath its sun-soaked veneer. High housing costs, rising crime, unbearable commutes, and a quality of life that sometimes feels more like a negotiation than a privilege are pushing residents toward greener, or at least cheaper, pastures. California's paradox is clear. One of the most beautiful, opportunity-packed states on Earth that's also forcing people out faster than ever. And while some cling to nostalgia or scenic views, many are choosing practicality over paradise. So where are they going? Texas, Nevada, Arizona, or just anywhere that won't make them mortgage their lives for a square foot of concrete? Hit like, subscribe, and comment, because in our next video, we'll track where the California exodus is landing and why these new frontiers might be even crazier than the places people are leaving.